is Block 7, The Greatest Generation, Section 6, The War in Europe, with the election of 1944. In the United States, elections continued on like normal. And in 1944 was a presidential election year. There had been talk of suspending the election, but it was just talk. The election went through like it had since 1788. The Republicans nominated Thomas Dewey, the very, very popular governor of New York. You can see he's kind of a youngish man. The Republicans believed that they could run on the fact that Roosevelt was soft on the communists, soft on Stalin, and was too ill to be president again. Well, the media kind of helped Roosevelt out in the sense that they did not report on just how ill he was. But Roosevelt, by 1944, you can kind of tell from the picture, Roosevelt's starting to look like an old man by 1944. However, he is renominated on the first ballot. The Democrats really don't have anybody else to unite the party, so Roosevelt is renominated. His doctors tell him not to campaign. Dewey campaigns hard, and Roosevelt, ignoring the advice of his doctors, campaigns really hard for the last about 3 or 4 weeks of the campaign in October and into November of 1944. Now, what is incredibly important for what's coming up in Block 8, the Cold War, concerns these two men. The guy right here, this is Henry Wallace. This was Roosevelt's vice president, a left-wing progressive, almost a communist sympathizer. As close as you could get to being a sympathizer of the Soviet Union without being an outright supporter of the Soviet Union. He was considered very, very left-wing. He was considered too progressive and too left-wing for many people, even in the Democratic Party. With Roosevelt's health more of an issue in 1944 than it had ever been, kind of the bosses of the Democratic Party say to themselves, if Roosevelt does not survive the 4 years, we don't want Henry Wallace being president of the United States when we're going to have to deal with the Soviet Union after the war. That, of course, the Soviet Union was an American ally during the war, but by 1944, people are already realizing that the wartime alliance, it's going to be really hard to hold that alliance together. And the United States is going to have some degree of conflict with the Soviet Union after the war. So Wallace is dumped, and in his place, the Democrats nominate someone that was not very well known. They nominate Harry S. Truman, a man from Missouri. He's a true commoner. His parents came from, normal working American people. He was a farmer, a hat maker. He owned a store. He got involved with politics because he was kind of angry at City Hall. And Truman made his name as a fearless opponent of corruption in a very corrupt state. That Harry Truman could not be corrupted. And because of his decency, his goodwill, his fighting spirit, his honesty, Democrats nominated him for the vice presidency. Roosevelt's victory for the 4th consecutive time is overwhelming. The war was going well. People bought into Roosevelt's experience to deal with the end of the war, to deal with Germany, to deal with Russia. And in 1944, Roosevelt won an unprecedented 4th term, winning 432 electoral votes to 99. This is the closest the Republicans ever come to defeating Roosevelt. But obviously, as you can tell, Roosevelt's coalition of liberals, progressives in the north, conservatives in the south, etc., make it a very easy win for the 4th consecutive time for President Roosevelt.